There is a moment in every life when the world you know crumbles, when the certainty of Scripture and the comfort of duty turn to ash in your mouth, and you are left standing at the edge of a void with only one question burning in your chest. What if everything you believed was a lie? For billions of human souls scattered across the dying embers of the Imperium, that moment arrives not in fire or glory, but in silence. The silence of unanswered prayers, the silence of commissars who execute children for stealing ration packs, the silence of a golden throne that has not spoken in 10,000 years. And in that silence, another voice whispers, soft and foreign, promising something the Imperium never could: hope. The Tao call it the greater good, a philosophy so alien to imperial dogma that merely hearing it is heresy, yet for the desperate and the damned, it sounds like salvation. But salvation always carries a price, and in the grim darkness of the far future, no choice is ever clean. This is the story of what happens when a human being, born under the Aquila, raised on corpse starch and propaganda, baptized in the blood of martyrs, turns their back on the Imperium of man and walks into the embrace of the Tao Empire. It is a story of betrayal and rebirth, of freedom and enslavement, of hope twisted into something unrecognizable. It is the story of the Gue'vesa, the lost children of Terra, and the terrible bargain they make when they choose to survive. Before we step across that threshold together, before we walk into the fire-lit hab blocks of Imperial defectors and the sterile integration camps of the Tao, I need you to do something for me. If this story pulls you in, if it makes you question the lines between faith and tyranny, between freedom and control, then hit that like button and let me know you're here for the deep dives into the darkest corners of the Warhammer 40k universe. Subscribe if you want more stories that don't just skim the surface but dig into the blood and bone of what makes this universe so horrifyingly beautiful. Share this with someone who thinks they know the Imperium, someone who believes in the Emperor's light without question, and let's see if we can crack that certainty just a little. Because the truth, as you're about to see, is never as simple as the preachers make it sound. Now, let's begin. You open your eyes in darkness, and for a moment, you do not remember where you are. That moment is a mercy. Then the smell hits you. Sweat and rust and the sour tang of recycled air that has passed through too many lungs, and you remember. Hab Block 47, subsection Tertius, Hive Secundus, a name that means nothing because there are 1,000 hives just like it scattered across 1,000 worlds, all grinding the same bodies into the same dust. The mattress beneath you is a slab of compressed fungal matter that stopped being soft 3 generations ago, and the springs dig into your spine like the fingers of a corpse, but you do not move. Not yet. Moving means the day has started, and once the day starts, it does not stop until you collapse again 12 hours later, if you are lucky, 14 if the overseers are in a mood, 16 if the quota is behind. You lie still and listen to the sounds of the hive waking around you. The clang of metal on metal, the hiss of steam vents, the distant rumble of the Manufactorum engines 3 levels down, the coughing of your neighbor through the thin partition wall, wet and deep and wrong. He will be dead within the week. You all know it. No one will mourn him. There is no time for mourning. The lumen strips flicker on overhead, harsh and white, and the vox grill in the ceiling crackles to life with the morning sermon. The preacher's voice is tinny and distorted, but the words are always the same. The Emperor protects, blessed is the toil of the faithful, through suffering we are redeemed, death is the servant's reward. You mouth the responses automatically, the litanies drilled into you since childhood, but you do not hear them anymore. They are just noise, like the grind of the machines, like the screaming in the punishment cells 2 blocks over. You swing your legs off the mattress and plant your feet on the floor, and the cold of the rockcrete shoots up through your bones. Your boots are where you left them, worn through at the toes, the laces frayed to threads. You pull them on and tie them with fingers that ache in every joint, and you stand, and the day begins. The corridor outside your hab unit is a river of bodies moving in one direction, all of you dressed in the same gray work smocks, all of you carrying the same tired faces, all of you silent except for the shuffle of boots and the occasional cough. There are no windows here. There has never been a window. You have not seen the sky in so long that you no longer remember what color it is, only that the propaganda posters say it is golden on Terra, golden with the light of the Emperor's grace. You do not think about Terra. Terra is a myth, a place for saints and lords, not for people like you. You are not a person. You are a worker. You are Unit 773 Alpha 9er. You are a cog in the machine, and the machine does not care if you are tired, if you are hungry, if you are dying. The machine only cares that you turn. The elevator down to the Manufactorum floor is packed so tight that you can feel the heartbeat of the man pressed against your back, and when the doors open, the heat hits you like a fist. The air down here is thick with smoke and oil, and the noise is a living thing, a roar that swallows all thought, all prayer, all hope. You take your place at your station, a stamping press the size of a chimera transport, and you begin. Pull the lever, feed the sheet, stamp, release, pull the lever, feed the sheet, stamp, release. Your hands move on their own. Your mind drifts. You think about the ration line at midday, the thin gray slurry they call stew, mostly water and fungal protein, and something that might be meat if you do not look too closely. You think about the woman 2 stations down who collapsed yesterday and was dragged away by the Medici servitors, her legs twitching, her eyes rolled back. You think about the way the overseers walk the catwalks above with shockmauls and shotguns, watching, always watching, and how one of them shot a boy last week for falling asleep on his feet. The boy was 9 years old. No one said anything. No one ever says anything. The hours bleed together. There is no clock, only the Vox announcements marking shifts. First shift, second shift, third shift. Your back screams. Your shoulders are knots of fire. Your hands are numb and slick with blood from a cut you do not remember getting, and the blood smears on the metal, and the metal does not care. Pull the lever, feed the sheet, stamp, release. Somewhere far above, in the spires where the nobles live, there is light and air and food that does not taste like ash. Somewhere far above, the Imperium is glorious, a shining bastion of mankind's greatness, the hammer that holds back the dark. Down here, the Imperium is a boot on your neck and a gun to your head and a voice that tells you to be grateful, to pray harder, to die smiling because your suffering feeds the golden throne. You believed that once. You believed it so hard that it kept you warm on the nights when the heating failed, when the rations ran short, when the plague swept through and took your mother and your sister and half the block. You believed the Emperor would protect you. But the Emperor is 10,000 light years away, and you are here, and you are so very, very tired. The midday break is 15 minutes. You eat standing up, shoulder to shoulder with 100 others, scooping the gray slurry from a dented metal bowl with a spoon that is too small and too soft. It tastes like nothing. It fills nothing. You swallow it anyway because it is all there is, and when the Vox blares the return to work klaxon, you shuffle back to your station and you begin again. Pull the lever, feed the sheet, stamp, release. The woman 2 stations down is back. You do not know how. Her face is pale, her movements jerky, and when you look closely, you see the cables running from the base of her skull into the press itself. She is not a woman anymore. She is a servitor, lobotomized and repurposed, her humanity stripped away and replaced with programming and neural plugs. That is what happens when you break. That is what happens when the machine decides you are more useful as a part than as a person. You look away. You do not think about it. Thinking about it makes it harder to pull the lever, and if you stop pulling the lever, you will end up like her. The day ends when the Vox says it ends. You do not know what time it is. Time does not exist here, only work and not work. You drag yourself back to the elevator, back up through the bowels of the hive, back to your hab unit, and you collapse onto the mattress without eating, without washing, without praying. The preacher's voice crackles through the vox grill again, the evening sermon, but you do not listen. You stare at the ceiling, at the stains and the cracks and the mold creeping in from the ventilation shaft, and you wonder if tomorrow will be the day you do not wake up. You wonder if that would be so bad. You wonder if the Emperor, in his infinite wisdom, even knows your name. And then you hear it, a sound that does not belong, a sound from outside, from beyond the hive, sharp and clean and wrong. The sound of gunfire, but not Imperial gunfire. Something else. Something new. And in the darkness, pressed into your mattress by the weight of exhaustion and despair, you feel something you have not felt in years, something dangerous and fragile and utterly forbidden. Curiosity. The next morning, the vox does not crackle with sermons. It crackles with static, and then a voice, calm and measured and utterly alien, speaking low Gothic with an accent you have never heard before. People of this world, it says, you do not have to suffer. There is another way. The words hang in the air like smoke, and around you, in the hab block, in the corridors, in the Manufactorum far below, 1,000 hearts skip a beat. The Imperium teaches you that hope is heresy, that questioning is death, that the only salvation is obedience. But the voice does not sound like a lie. It sounds like the first breath of air after a lifetime underwater. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the layers of exhaustion and indoctrination and fear, a tiny, terrible seed is planted. You do not know it yet, but that seed will grow. It will break you open. It will change everything. The overseers move quickly. Within the hour, squads of Arbite storm through the hab blocks, smashing vox grills, dragging anyone who speaks of the broadcast into the corridors and beating them silent. You watch from your doorway as a man 3 units down is pulled out by his hair, his face already a mask of blood, and thrown against the wall. The Emperor protects, the Arbite sergeant shouts, his voice raw with fury, and the Emperor punishes the faithless. Speak of this again and you will burn. The man does not respond. He cannot. His jaw is broken. But his eyes, swollen and half shut, find yours for just a moment, and in them you see something that makes your stomach twist. Relief. He is glad to be punished. He is glad someone heard him speak. Because for just one moment, he was not a number. He was a voice. You close your door. You sit on your mattress. Your hands are shaking. Outside, the hive groans and grinds, and the sermon resumes, louder now, angrier, promising damnation for traitors and heretics and those who would turn from the Emperor's light. But you are not listening to the sermon. You are listening to the echo of that other voice, the one that said you do not have to suffer, and you are thinking about the woman who became a servitor, and the boy who was shot, and your mother who died praying, and you are thinking that maybe, just maybe, the God Emperor you have served your entire life does not love you at all. Maybe he never did. And that thought, small and poisonous and undeniable, is the first step into the void. The Tau do not come as conquerors. They come as gardeners, patient and methodical, planting seeds and waiting for the harvest. The fleet that enters orbit above your world does not unleash land strikes or drop pods filled with screaming warriors. Instead, it broadcasts on every frequency, in every language, a message so simple it cuts through a lifetime of imperial conditioning like a knife through silk. Lay down your arms. No one needs to die today. The PDF commanders laugh. The commissars load their bolt pistols. The planetary governor declares a state of emergency and orders every able-bodied citizen to the defense lines, promising that the Emperor's wrath will fall upon the xenos invaders like a hammer. But the Tau do not attack. They wait. And while they wait, they broadcast again, and again, and again, and with each repetition, the message changes, becomes more specific, more personal. They name your world. They name your hive. They name the ration shortages, the tithe increases, the mass graves outside the wall where the plague victims were dumped without burial rites. They say, "We know what you have endured. You do not have to endure it anymore." For 3 days, nothing happens. The PDF digs in. The hive's guns are aimed at the sky. The ecclesiarchy preachers scream themselves hoarse in the plazas, calling for faith, for fury, for blood. And then, on the 4th day, the Tau send down a delegation. Not soldiers. Diplomats. Water-caste negotiators in flowing robes, flanked by fire warriors whose weapons are powered down, whose body language is open, non-threatening. They land in the wastes outside the hive, far from the guns, and they wait. The governor sends a kill team. The kill team does not return, not dead, but converted, walking back through the gates with their lost guns slung and their eyes wide, babbling about medical care, about food, about being treated like people. They are executed on the spot, of course, shot in the back of the head in front of the assembled workers as a lesson. But the lesson does not take. Because the workers saw the look on those men's faces before they died, and it was not fear. It was hope. You hear the stories in whispers, passed from shift to shift, from block to block. A farmer in the southern agri-sector let a Tau earth-cast engineer fix his irrigation system, something the local mechanicus had refused to do for 15 years, and now his fields are producing twice the yield. A Medici station on the edge of the hive accepted Tau medical supplies, and for the first time in living memory, someone survived a gut wound. A PDF sergeant shook hands with a fire-cast chasseur and was not punished by his commissar because the commissar had already deserted. The Imperium is cracking, not under bombardment, but under kindness, and that is more terrifying than any war. Because if the Tau are right, if life does not have to be this way, then every moment of suffering you have endured was a lie. Every prayer was wasted. Every death was unnecessary. And that knowledge is a weight no human mind can carry without breaking. You do not decide to defect. The decision is made for you by 1,000 tiny fractures, each one widening the gap between the person you were and the person you are becoming. It happens in the Manufactorum when an overseer raises his shock maul to strike a child, and you step between them without thinking, and the maul comes down on your shoulder instead, and the pain is white and absolute, and you realize that you are tired of pain. It happens in the ration line when a Tau drone, small and hovering and impossibly clean, drops a supply crate in the plaza, and inside are vacuum-sealed packs of real food, protein that does not taste like corpses, water that does not burn your throat, even a small tin of something sweet. And you eat it, and you weep, and you do not know if you are weeping from relief or from shame. It happens in the middle of the night when the Vox grill crackles with another Tau broadcast, and this time the voice says your name, your real name, the one your mother gave you before she died, and it says, "We see you. We know you are suffering. You are not forgotten." And that is the moment the Imperium loses you. The defection is not glorious. There is no grand speech, no dramatic escape. You simply stop going to work. You walk out of the hab block one morning, past the Arbeits checkpoints, past the defense line, and into the wastes where the Tau are waiting. There are others with you, a trickle that becomes a stream that becomes a flood, and the Imperium tries to stop it with bullets and fire and sermons, but it is too late. The dam has broken. The Tau greet you with open hands. They do not smile. Tau faces do not move the way human faces do, but their voices are calm, respectful, almost gentle. "Welcome," they say in perfect Gothic. You are safe now, and you want to believe them. You want it so badly that it hurts. But you are still wearing your work smock, still carrying the smell of the Manufactorum, still hearing the screams of the executed defectors in your ears, and you know, deep in the marrow of your bones, that safety is a lie. There is no safety in the 41st millennium. There is only the choice of which nightmare you will inhabit. The Tau take you to a camp. It is not a prison, There are no walls, no guards with guns, but it is not freedom either. It is a liminal space, a place between worlds, where the Imperium ends and the Tau Empire has not yet begun. There are tents, prefabricated structures made of sleek alien materials that regulate temperature and filter air, and there are medical stations where Earth-caste technicians scan your body for malnutrition, for disease, for augmetics and implants. They find all three. Your lungs are scarred from years of inhaling Manufactorum fumes. Your bones are brittle from calcium deficiency. Your teeth are rotting. They treat it all. They do not ask for payment. They do not ask for thanks. They simply do it, efficiently, without ceremony, and when they are done, you feel better than you have in your entire life, and that feeling is almost worse than the pain because it means the Imperium could have done this. Could have. Did not. Chose not to. The re-education begins immediately. It is not called re-education, of course. The Tau call it cultural integration, and it is presented as optional, but you quickly learn that optional is a flexible concept. You sit in a pavilion with 100 other defectors, and a water-cast instructor projects hololithic images in the air. Images of Tau society, of clean cities and efficient factories, of fire warriors standing beside Gue'vesa auxiliaries, human soldiers in Tau armor fighting for the greater good. The instructor speaks in Gothic, their accent lilting and strange, and they tell you that you are not traitors. You are pioneers. You are the future of humanity, a humanity that has been freed from the lies of the Imperium, from the corpse worship of a dead god, from the grinding horror of a regime that devours its own children. They tell you that the Tau do not see species, only potential. That you will be valued, respected, given purpose and dignity. They tell you that the greater good is not a slogan but a promise, and that promise is this: every life matters, every voice is heard, every being has a place in the vast and beautiful tapestry of the Empire. And you want to believe them. You do. But then you see the way the Tau look at you when they think you are not paying attention, the way their eyes linger on your hands, your scars, your crude augmetics, and you see pity there and something else. Something that looks like disappointment. You are a project, a broken thing to be fixed. And you wonder if this is really freedom, or just a gentler cage. At night, you lie in your tent and listen to the sounds of the camp. The hum of Tau technology, the murmur of other defectors talking in low voices, the occasional sob of someone who has just realized what they have done. You think about the Arbites who shot the defectors in the plaza. You think about the Emperor, silent on his golden throne. You think about the Tau, with their promises and their pity and their absolute certainty that they know what is best for you. And you think about the Aquila you used to wear, the two-headed eagle that marked you as a subject of the Imperium, and the way you tore it from your smock and threw it into the fire. It burned quickly. It was just cheap metal and fabric. But the symbol, the meaning, the weight of 10,000 years of human history and faith and suffering, that does not burn so easily. It is still with you. It will always be with you. And you realize, in the darkness of your tent, that you have not escaped the Imperium. You have only traded one set of chains for another. And the worst part, the part that makes you want to scream, is that you do not know if you made the right choice. You do not know if there is a right choice. You only know that you are here, and you are alive, and tomorrow the Tau will teach you their language, their customs, their way of thinking. Tomorrow, they will begin to erase you. And you will let them. Because the alternative is to go back, and you cannot go back. Not now. Not ever. The camp is not the end. It is the beginning. Within weeks, you are moved to an integration facility on a Tau-controlled world, a place where defectors are processed and sorted and molded into useful members of the Empire. The facility is enormous, a sprawling complex of residential blocks and training centers and administrative hubs, all of it clean and orderly and eerily quiet. There are no sermons here. No preachers. No commissars. Just the gentle, relentless pressure of Tao efficiency. You are given a new designation, a string of syllables in the Tao language that approximates your name but is not quite right, and you are assigned to a caste. Earth caste for laborers, fire caste auxiliaries for former soldiers, water caste support for anyone with education or social skills. You are not asked what you want. The Tao decide for you, based on aptitude tests and psychological evaluations, and you accept it because refusal is not an option. Not officially. But you see what happens to those who resist. They do not disappear. They do not die. They simply stop arguing. Their eyes glaze over. They smile too much. And when you ask them what changed their minds, they say the same thing, in the same calm, even tone. I understand now. The greater good is everything. You do not resist. You learn. You learn the Tao language, or at least enough of it to follow orders. You learn to eat Tao food, strange textures and flavors that your body does not recognize but eventually accepts. You learn to bow when an ethereal passes, to lower your eyes, to still the questions on your tongue. The ethereals are rare, but when they appear, the air changes. It becomes heavier, thicker, and you feel a pull in your chest, a warmth that spreads through your limbs and makes you want to please them, to serve them, to give everything you have without asking why. It is not mind control, the Tao insist. It is simply the natural authority of those who embody the greater good. But you remember the Emperor's sermons, the way they made you feel small and weak and desperate for approval, and you wonder if there is really any difference. Control is control, whether it comes from a gun or a gene or a voice that makes you want to obey. And you are so tired of being controlled. Months pass. The facility becomes your world. The Imperium becomes a memory, something distant and unreal, like a nightmare you half remember upon waking. You hear rumors, sometimes, from new arrivals. Entire systems defecting, entire regiments of the Astra Militarum laying down their arms and joining the Tau, the Imperium's eastern borders collapsing under the weight of their own brutality. The Tau do not gloat. They simply nod, as if this was always inevitable, as if history itself has bent toward them. And perhaps it has. Perhaps the Imperium's time is over. Perhaps the future belongs to the Tau, and you are standing at the edge of that future, neither human nor Tau, but something in between. Gue'vesa. The lost. The broken. The reborn. You do not know which name fits. Maybe all of them. Maybe none. All you know is that when you look in the mirror, you do not recognize the face staring back. It is cleaner, healthier, better fed. But it is not yours. Not anymore. The Tau do not lie. This is the first thing you learn, and it is the most dangerous lesson. They do not lie because they do not need to. The truth, presented with perfect clarity and absolute confidence, is far more effective than any falsehood. They tell you that you are valued, and you are valued as labor, as soldiers, as proof that the greater good can uplift even the most broken species. They tell you that you are free, and you are free to choose how you will serve, which caste you will join, what role you will play in the vast machine of the Empire. But you are not free to refuse. You are not free to go back. You are not free to be anything other than what the Tau have decided you will become. And slowly, so slowly that you do not notice until it is too late, you stop wanting to refuse. The indoctrination does not come in the form of sermons or beatings. It comes in the form of comfort. It comes in the form of full meals and clean water and medical care that does not end in augmetic lobotomy. It comes in the form of Tau who treat you with respect, who listen when you speak, who nod thoughtfully and take your suggestions seriously before doing exactly what they were always going to do. It comes in the form of other Gue'vesa, humans like you who have made the same choice, who look you in the eye and say with perfect sincerity, "This is better. This is right." The greater good is everything. And eventually, you start to believe them. Your new life is not without purpose. The Tau are efficient above all else, and every being in the Empire has a function. You are assigned to a labor battalion, working alongside Earthcast engineers to construct infrastructure on a newly integrated world. The work is hard, but it is not cruel. You are given breaks. You are given protective equipment. You are given feedback, not punishment, when you make mistakes. The Earthcast FOVRE who oversees your team speaks to you in halting Gothic, their voice patient, their instructions clear, and when you complete a task well, they nod in approval, and you feel a flicker of pride that shames you even as it warms you. This is what work should be, you think. This is what life should be. And then you remember the Manufactorum, the overseers, the boy who was shot, and the pride curdles into something bitter and sharp. The Tau did not invent kindness. The Imperium simply withheld it. And you hate them both for that, the Imperium for what they did to you, and the Tau for showing you what could have been. The other Gue'vesa are your mirror. You see yourself in their faces, in their haunted eyes, in the way they flinch at loud noises and hoard food even though the rations are plentiful. Some of them adapt quickly, throwing themselves into the greater good with the fervor of the newly converted, learning Tau customs and language and philosophy until they are more Tau than human. Others resist quietly, whispering prayers to the Emperor in the dark, clutching makeshift aquilas carved from scrap metal, clinging to the faith that brought them this far even though it offers no salvation. You fall somewhere in between. You do not pray anymore. Prayer feels hollow, a scream into a void that is never answered, but you do not embrace the greater good either. You simply exist, day by day, task by task, caught in the liminal space between two empires, two species, two versions of yourself. And in that space you are alone. The ethereals come without warning. One moment you are working, hauling materials from a transport skiff to a construction site, and the next the air shifts, and every Tau in sight stops what they are doing and turns toward the horizon. The ethereal approaches slowly, flanked by honor guards in ornate armor, their presence a weight that presses down on your chest like a physical force. They are tall, taller than most Tau, and their robes shimmer with colors you do not have names for, and when they speak, the sound bypasses your ears and goes straight into your skull, resonant and undeniable. They speak in Tau, but somehow you understand, the greater good is the future. The greater good is unity. The greater good is all. And you feel it, the pull, the compulsion, the overwhelming need to agree, to obey, to kneel. Around you, Gue'vesa and Tau alike bow their heads, and you do too, because not bowing feels impossible, because every fiber of your being is screaming that this is right, this is natural, this is good. And then the ethereal is gone, and the pressure lifts, and you are left gasping, your hands shaking, your mind reeling. You look at the other Gue'vesa. Some of them are weeping. Some of them are smiling. And you realize, with cold and absolute certainty, that the Tau do not need chains. They have something far more effective. The months turn into years. You stop counting. Time loses meaning in the structured rhythm of Tau society, where every day is productive, every task is purposeful, every moment is accounted for. You learn to think in Tau terms. Montka and Kaoyan, aggressive assault and patient ambience, the tactical doctrines that govern not just warfare but life itself. You learn to eat with Tau utensils, to sleep in Tau-designed quarters, to navigate the subtle hierarchies of caste and rank that define every interaction. You are not Tau. You will never be Tau, no matter how much you learn, but you are no longer fully human either. The Imperium would call you a traitor, a heretic, a thing to be purged with fire. The Tau call you Gue'vesa, auxiliary, a lesser partner in the grand endeavor of the greater good. And you do not know which label fits, or if any of them do. You are something new, something in between, and there is no word in any language for what you have become. You hear stories, sometimes, from new defectors, from Tau soldiers returning from the front. The Imperium is pushing back. The Damocles Crusade, the Third Sphere expansion, the endless grinding wars along the border where human and Tau fleets tear each other apart in the cold void. The Gue'vesa auxiliaries fight in those wars, human soldiers in Tau armor carrying pulse rifles and fighting for an empire that is not theirs, and you wonder if you will be called to do the same. You wonder if you could. If you could stand on a battlefield and fire on Imperial Guard, on men and women who were once like you, who are still praying to the Emperor and dying for nothing. You do not know. You do not want to know. But the choice, you suspect, will not be yours to make. The integration is never complete. There are always gaps, always moments when the mask slips and you remember who you were. It happens when you hear a snatch of Gothic spoken with an Imperial accent, sharp and guttural, and for a moment you are back in the Manufactorum, back in the Hab block, back in the world where suffering was the only certainty. It happens when you see a Tau child, young and curious, staring at you with wide eyes, and you realize they see you as something strange, something alien, something to be studied and categorized. It happens when you dream, and in the dreams you are standing before the golden throne, and the Emperor is looking at you, and his face is a skull, and he says nothing, but his silence is an accusation that burns hotter than any fire. You wake from those dreams gasping, your sheets soaked with sweat, and you tell yourself it does not matter. The Emperor is dead, or as good as dead, and you owe him nothing. But the guilt remains. It always remains. The Tau do not punish dissent with violence. They punish it with isolation. When a Gue'vesa speaks out, questions the doctrine, refuses to comply, they are not executed or imprisoned. They are simply moved, reassigned, placed in a new role, a new location, surrounded by Tau who do not speak Gothic, who do not acknowledge their protests, who treat them with polite indifference until the fire inside them dies. You see it happen to a man who used to work on your team, a former PDF sergeant who kept insisting that the Tau were manipulating them, that the ethereals were using some kind of psychic control. He was not wrong. But he was not useful. Within a week he was gone, transferred to a frontier colony on the edge of Tau space, and when you asked about him, your FOVRE simply said, "He will find peace there." You did not ask again. Peace, in Tau terms, is another word for surrender. The price of the greater good is not paid in blood. It is paid in pieces of yourself, small sacrifices that accumulate over time until you look back and realize you are no longer the person who walked out of the hive. You no longer speak Gothic unless you have to. You no longer think in terms of the Emperor's will. You no longer flinch when a Tau gives you an order, no longer question when an ethereal speaks. You have been smoothed down, shaped, integrated, and the process was so gradual, so gentle, that you did not even notice it happening. The Imperium broke you with cruelty. The Tau remade you with kindness. And you do not know which is worse. There are moments, though, brief, fragile moments, when you stand on the edge of a Tau settlement and look up at the stars, and you wonder. You wonder if there are other humans out there, still fighting, still believing in the Imperium despite everything. You wonder if they think of you as a traitor or as a victim. You wonder if the Emperor, wherever he is, whatever he is, knows what happened to you. And you wonder if, in some alternate reality, you stayed. You endured. You died in the Manufactorum with your faith intact, and the Emperor welcomed you into his light, and it was all worth it. But then you look down at your hands, clean and healthy, at the Tau settlement behind you, orderly and efficient, and you think, I am alive. I am fed. I am not in pain. And maybe that is enough. Maybe survival is its own kind of grace. Or maybe you are just telling yourself that because the alternative, that you traded your soul for a bowl of clean water, is too terrible to bear. The greater good is not evil. This is what you tell yourself in the quiet hours when doubt creeps in. The Tao are not monsters. They do not torture. They do not execute children. They do not grind their own people into servitors. They are, by any objective measure, kinder than the Imperium, more just, more rational. But kindness is not freedom. Justice is not truth. And rationality, when applied with absolute certainty, becomes its own kind of tyranny. The Tao believe they are saving you. They believe the greater good is the only path, the only future, and they will not stop until every being in the galaxy bends to that vision. And you, Gue'vesa, lost child of Terra, broken tool of the Imperium, are proof of their success. You are the future they are building, one human at a time, one choice at a time, one betrayal at a time. And the worst part, the part that will haunt you until the end of your days, is that you chose this. You walked away. You tore off the Aquila. You said yes. And now you will live with that choice, in a universe where there are no good endings, no clean victories, no redemption. Only the cold calculus of survival. Only the weight of chains, old and new. Only the question that will never be answered. Did you escape, or did you just learn to love your cage?